Hi. Hi, my name is Techne. I've been crafting and cosplaying for 9 years, and I'm here to teach you all about wigs. Do
Do
you
you
wear
wear wigs?
wigs? When will
When
you
will
wear
you wear
wigs?
wigs?
That's the big question. So I have all my things right here. I don't know if you can see them. You could probably only see this part. I have a fully styled wig here, and then I also have the same one that came right out of the bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and start. This is going to be a beginner tutorial, just some tips and tricks, general wig styling stuff. If you just got it out of the bag and you're like, what do I do? How do I even do this? Then you're in the right place. I do want to get into more advanced stuff, like how to do these pigtails, how to do fancy, uh, how to do this. That's gonna be probably in a later video. This one right here is just for beginner. So if you're just starting out, if you're doing maybe your first, your second wig, and you have no idea what to do, you've probably gone on YouTube and looked up some other tutorials, then this is also one you can add to your list. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. The first rule, and repeat after me, wig hair is not the same as this kind of hair that grows out of your head. It is not like real hair. This kind of hair and this kind of hair is all synthetic, meaning that it is practically made out of plastic. So what that basically means is it is closer to the stuff you wear, like fabric on all your clothes, than it is to the actual stuff that comes out of your head. And you need to keep that in mind, because I have seen people that try to treat it like you're styling a person's real hair, and it doesn't go very well. Usually everything just kind of falls flat, or you end up, burning it a little bit too much, or I don't know, it just gets everywhere and it's a whole big mess. This is my nice, the not so nice as of right now, lace front that I have. I used it for Hunter, for the owl house, because at the time I didn't know how to do glued wig fronts, which I will talk about in another video, like I was saying. You can kind of tell lace fronts, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, like lace front, what are you talking about? Yeah, so you can kind of see it kind of goes glued onto your skin, and it has makeup all over it because I've used it before. You can see this one has been worn out. I need to restyle it, but that's going to be that one. So that's what I mean by saying lace fronts and hard fronts. And you've probably heard that term somewhere. If this is your first time hearing it, then good. Now you know what that means. So those are going to be your two different types of fronts, your hard fronts and your lace fronts. Most of the time I will get a hard front. That is the only lace front that I have. All the other ones that need to have that kind of swoop back kind of look like that, I learned how to do glued hairlines. So after you know that human hair and wig hair are different, and after you learned what a hard front and a lace front is, we can go into talking about actually styling this type of hair and getting materials for your wig, because you're gonna need them. You can't really do a wig without getting, your scissors, your hairspray. You're gonna need a lot of this. Ooh! Yeah, so I have some of my tools over here. I will make a little list at the side of things that I do use, things that maybe just a beginner needs, and stuff that I will talk about later for more advanced wig styling after you've gone through maybe your first or second type of wig. And believe it or not, this is actually, I'll probably show it around somewhere here. This was my very first wig that I styled. Yeah, it's no one really told me how to do anything. But my most recent wig is gonna be this one right here. Ooh, so shiny, so neat. How do you get it like that? This is actually not for me. This is for a friend, Shorty Cosplays. Hi friend. They won my birthday giveaway, and if you want to go ahead and check out that, I really want to do more giveaways in the future, but you should follow me just in case. Okay? All right, let's go follow me. Okay, guys? So you bought your wig. What are we gonna do with it? Well, the first thing I recommend is getting an actual wig head to put on it. For a very long time, I've been using these styrofoam heads just to style it. I got this new one. It's on a fancy wig head. So if you're just starting out, having one of these styrofoam wig heads is totally fine to use. The only reason I recommend using this one, if you know you're going to be styling more wigs in the future, the only reason I recommend using this is because the styrofoam wig head does not sit straight. Okay, it does not stay in place while you're styling your wig. Using these ones on one of these tripods because, you know, it's just better, okay? And you're probably wondering why I use cling wrap around the head. The reason you want to use cling wrap around these is because this is pretty much fabric and, you know, a lot of types of like paper inside of it. So if you get glue, or if you're using a steam obviously is water, and if you get a bunch of water, that it sucks it all up and then it eventually gets moldy. Just to make sure it doesn't get too dirty, or you definitely don't want mold on it, you want to make sure to have that cling wrap on it. So once you get one of these with the tripod, go ahead and put cling wrap before you start styling your wigs on it. But if you just have one of these styrofoam heads, that's perfectly fine too. If you don't want your styrofoam head getting, you know, dirty or anything, it's good to put cling wrap on it too. I personally have never done that before on one of these styrofoam heads, just because it's styrofoam and I don't really care about it. I have a bunch of different styrofoam heads, and that's the thing about these, is that they're pretty cheap to get. So that's the first thing you want to do, is get something to put the wig on. The second thing, I'm gonna show off some of my tools that I have here. This is my favorite thing. This thing. What is it? So you've probably heard of a hair curler or a hair straightener. This is a crimper, and I'm trying to show off. It has little zigzag things in it. Crimping has become a really popular thing in the cosplay community, wig styling community, because it brings a lot of volume, it makes your wigs easier to style, and it gets rid of that kind of nasty shininess that maybe you buy a wig from Party City. You know what I'm talking about? The big shiny Party City wigs. What that will do is once you crimp it, it makes it really soft and very fluffy, and that makes it easier to style. That makes the volume, because you've seen all these crazy anime hairdos, they have those big volume, big all the way up, and that's gonna be easier if you have a bunch of hair and you need it to stick up. Crimping will help do that. When you put heat to a wig, it sets it in place, and then you want to allow it to cool down. So if you're using a hair straightener or a curler, most of the time these Mappa Beauty wigs that I do get will be heat resistant. You want to make sure with the wig that you're getting that it is heat resistant, so that you're not getting these weird frayed edges, because if you put heat to a non-heat resistant wig, then it's going to be a mess. It's going to become just this thing that looks like you've set it on fire. The style of crimping is optional. I know some people, I've recently learned that a lot of people actually don't like the way crimped wigs look, which is actually surprising to me because it's so popular right now. A while ago, before people started crimping wigs, they would just tease the wig, which is you're taking the fibers and you're just brushing them up, and so it becomes this big poof ball mess, and I've definitely done that a couple times. You can definitely do that. It depends on what you want. I usually like crimping more than teasing, because when you tease a wig, you have to tease it over and over and over again until it becomes that nice texture. Crimping just is a lot faster. It does strain your hands a little bit more than teasing. I feel like it is a lot faster than teasing your wigs. And you can kind of see the difference between this wig, the texture of these fibers. You can tell that it's not as shiny. It's definitely way poofier, like the volume. So the reason we crimp the wigs is for volume, it's easier to style, and it gets rid of the shininess. So that's what crimping is used for, essentially. The next thing I'm gonna talk about is scissors. So I only have 2 pairs of scissors here. You have your regular scissors. Obviously, they're just regular scissors. I'll show you different types of ways you can hold your scissors. If you're holding them like this, you're gonna get a lot of blunt edges. That's really good for like if you want straight bangs, but you don't want to use that for your whole entire wig. If you're doing a men's hairstyle and you need to do the back, definitely do not go through each one like this, because then it's going to become this really weird blocky texture in the back. The way to avoid that is by going down like this, or by getting the ends cut kind of like this. That's what I do with these bangs, is I make sure that they're not too thick at the ends, because it does make it easier to spike. If you need to have a wig with a lot of spikes, I recommend doing that. And I also recommend these scissors for it. So these are shearing scissors. not a whole lot of cosplayers I see actually use these. So a lot of the times they just use regular scissors for the whole thing. But what this does is if you cut it, it's not going to cut the whole thing like regular scissors. It's only going to cut a couple hairs, and that makes it thinner and easier to style if you're doing it to the ends. Because you will see once you have finished crimping your whole wig and you want a part that needs to be spiked or anything, it's going to be hard to do a whole like that. It's going to be harder to do a spike if the whole thing is the same type of thickness. So you want to make sure to thin it out just at the very edge, and it makes these spikes so much more just like defined. I find that going in with these shearing scissors, if you're going down like this instead of across, it works way easier. So I recommend going in like that instead of that. And then next I'm going to talk about brushes. Definitely try to get one that's different from your hair, just so that the wig hairs don't get caught in your actual one and then you have to pick them all out. And it gets kind of gross because then it's all with your actual hair. So maybe get one that is exclusively for wigs. That's what I use this one for. But I actually do like using these kind of wide tooth combs. Like I said, wig hair is not real human hair. It tangles differently, it heats differently, and it will set differently. So using a wide tooth comb for the whole thing is going to make untangling it a lot easier. And then the last thing is like actually setting your wig. Because technically you've been rambling, you want to know like, oh, you've been talking about like the frayed edges for the spikes, but you actually want to know how to set those spikes. This is your best friend. This is the holy grail, and it's a hand steamer. So a hand steamer is typically used to unsteam wrinkles and stuff in clothes if you don't have an iron, or if you need to go somewhere quickly. That's what a steamer is used for. But it's also used for your entire wig. So after you've crimped your wig and you've cut it to, maybe you want to do a bob hairstyle, you've cut it to maybe shoulder length. One thing before I get into steaming, always overestimate how much you're cutting. What I mean by that is you've seen those videos of people cutting their bangs and they always cut them way too short. Overestimate how much you're cutting of your wig, because obviously these wig hairs don't grow back. You're gonna have to get a whole other wig if you cut it too short. So if you're doing a bob hairstyle, always cut a little bit longer than you mean to, and then you can go from there and see, just like cut very liberally and see how much, and then maybe put it on your own head if you're kind of not trusting your wig head and how that linked. But anyway, back to steaming. After you've crimped your wig, after you've cut it and everything, in this portion of the wig we're going to pretend to be doing bangs. So here's another tool you can use, is I use just these normal pins. Obviously can be found at crafting stores, or you can go online. Pins are typically very cheap, so you can buy them for maybe, I think the cheapest I've gotten pins has been like 75 cents for like a whole box. So there we go. Let's pretend that I haven't styled this wig yet and it's not set. So it's just flat and the spikes aren't set. It's just, they just look like blunt bangs like you'd see. The way that I would style these personally is that I take these pins and I've just kind of put them in place as to how I think I'd want them to look on the head. Then you take your steamer, but try to get like kind of close like this. When it's on, I just press down and then steam comes out of it and it heats up the fibers, so it'll be kind of loose for a second, but once it cools down, you can undo these pins and it will set in place just like that. Before I take out the pins though, I like to use a little bit of hairspray, but that's only after it cools down. So you've probably seen this type of a hairspray. It's called Got To Be, and it is essentially water and glue. It is more glue than water, and that is the reason why cosplayers like to use this so much, is because if you're getting any type of other hairspray, obviously it's meant for human hair, so it's hard to find a hairspray that is meant for wigs. This is the best kind because it is really used for like mohawks type styles, so it's really going to help set your wig in place. Usually wigs come already pre-straightened, so if you need a straightened hairstyle, that's not usually something I really worry about. Having a straightened hairstyle is the easiest thing you can have for a wig, so I do recommend having maybe something that is at least mostly straightened. one that doesn't have as many spikes if you are a beginner. So you've done spikes, but maybe you want to curl your wig. Let's say you just want to do a simple curl, kind of like I did with these little strands. The way that I do it, the way that I found works for me, that will have the curl set in place really easily and very nicely. Hair curlers. So there are different sized hair curlers. If you really want small ones, definitely go smaller. So what I do is I actually, with our steamer or holy grail, put the steam against whatever part you want to curl, and then you just put the roller in like you would a normal hair. And then you want to go ahead and pin it in place. I only use bobby pins really if I'm doing curls and I need to pin the curlers in place, and then I take them out. I used to use bobby pins all the time to set like little waves and like these spikes. The reason I stopped using them is because when you use bobby pins, they leave a really big indent in your style, and you can just tell that a bobby pin has been there. So I stopped using them like that. So once you undo that curl, you want to make sure that it cools down. Always make sure that your steam cools down before taking any pins out or any curlers out. Otherwise, it's just going to fall flat. So make sure that it cools down first. That's my favorite way to do curls. There are definitely other ways, like if you don't have curlers, you can just roll them up and then put the bobby pin in them, then steam hairspray. I'm going to talk a little bit about more tools that I have. So I've gone through my hairspray, my steamer, my scissors, my brushes, my pins. I have bobby pins. But the next thing you want to use are these little clippies. So these are really going to help you. You can get any type of clip. I also have these kind of claw clips. These are really going to help you get certain strands of hair out of place while you're curling one section. You really want to make sure to section your hair of these wigs while you're curling it, while you're styling it, while you're doing spikes, anything like that, just to make sure you're having each of those sections just nice and set in place. So you've done your crimping, you've cut it, you've done your steamer, you're all good, and then you have your wig that looks like this. So that has been my beginner wig tips, tricks, rules, okay? Make sure to follow them. Otherwise, you are nothing to me. If this one does really well, maybe if we like, comment, subscribe. But thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can obviously comment or DM me on Instagram. I am totally happy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next one. Thank you.